Hi, and welcome to the Adelaide Horror Podcast. This is your host, Zombie Joe. It's episode 26, and I'm looking at Peter Jackson's 1992 classic Brain Dead, or Dead Alive for overseas viewers. And this comes under the comedy horror episode. So, hands down, the best comedy horror that's ever existed. I think as horror fans, we can all agree on this. It's got the gore, it's got the laughs. It is literally the blueprint of how a comedy horror is done. There's plenty more comedy horror that's come out since this, and they come a close second and third. You won't be able to top it. This movie will never be topped. I will go on record saying that. Like, you're never ever gonna have a movie like this ever. Like, it just came out when it did. It's the fantastic thing that it is. How it's come out, when it came out, it just is what it is, and we as horror fans all love it for what it is. And so tonight's episode is just pretty much going to be paying tribute to it. Cool. So yes, and then there'll be horrible mentions at the end, and we're all good to go. So cool. Directed by Peter Jackson. The runtime is 1 hour and 44 minutes. Like I said, pretty much states immediately and doesn't let off. It just cranks. It just keeps cranking the next level, and doesn't let up until the final credits begin. So there you go. It's written by Stephen Sinclair, wrote the storyline for this, and the screenplay was written by Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh. In researching this, discovered that both of them are married. So I don't know if they met each other on this film, and the 400 litres of blood that was used at the end of this film is what brought them together. Who knows? But the husband and wife, great to know that. And now revisiting the film and watching it, and then knowing that they're husband and wife, they kind of clicked. Like, yeah, I can see that they vibed off each other. The script is brilliant, and well done. And the her comedy in this was really well put through as well. The budget for this was $3 million when it came out. So in the time, it would have been expensive. The money coming back, however, is a whole different story. Like I said, I think it was a victim of its own time. It was ahead of its time, this film, and also a victim of rating, and so it grossed in the first weekend $23,765 in the US on its own. It says worldwide 242,623 all up worldwide. Now I looked at that and I was like, okay, I think that's still kind of counting the US and maybe Canada, but not the rest of the world. But I didn't really know this film coming in. I was only aware of Brain Dead when I walked into my local video shop. I was 14 when this film came out. And I was the right age when I watched this at 14 at a mate's party. It was a perfect time to watch this film. That's and it was released in New Zealand in August 92. The US got it in February 93, and we got it in February as well, 93, and then VHS releases. So I saw this, it was summertime. I remember it was about November, December when I saw this. Like I said, at my friend, I was in high school at the time. I was 14. He was having a party, and I went to the kind of the party. His older sibling didn't return these videos, and one of those videos was Brain Dead. So we ended up watching it, like sneaking it out and putting it on with the low volume and kind of gather it around the TV, and so we were allowed to watch it. Again, perfect environment. You wouldn't be able to do that now, but So it's one of those movies where it fits. Like, you remember fondly when you first saw it and who you were with, or the scenario. So for me, I was with some high school friends. We weren't supposed to watch this. We were 14. We're all a bunch of 14-year-old boys in a room. It was the perfect environment to watch a gory, over-the-top film like Brain Dead. It was the perfect storm. And when I started watching this movie, the front cover art immediately got my attention because I did see this at the video shop, but this one here, a lot of people my age and older would remember the bubbly cover. It was almost 3D. It came out at you a little bit with the woman pulling her face, and people were like, "Wow, that's nuts," or freaked kids out. I know the younger kids kind of in the 90s watching that. I've listened to some other podcasts and they referred to the cover of Dead Alive if they're overseas, saying it terrified the shit out of them, and just the face. And it is quite confronting. And then you had the cardboard cutout, large displays in video shops of this film when it came out, when it did. So yeah, it would have terrified the shit out of everybody. And so when I got to watch this, I was like, wow, I'm going to watch this movie that I'm not supposed to. So the excitement was there, and so I just gobbled up the whole entire film, and it got me as soon as it started. Like, the zoo hunter, the guy collecting the Sumatran rat monkey, being attacked and then being pretty much cut up comedically as well, but the gore was there, and it wasn't overly gory, but compared to the rest of the film as we go on, but it was the comedy, and then the zoom in shot, you see a bite, and they'd zoom in on the bite, and then it just moved across this guy's body until eventually it got to his head. And you're like, well, fuck, we know what's going to happen here. So by this point, us guys were rolling around and just going, this movie's insane. And so, like I said, it's a perfect movie for a 14-year-old boy to watch because that's how we think, so it got an R rating. Now, if you look at it now when they say, oh, it's gory and stuff, we would go, no, it's not. We've seen way more gore, between now, then and now, massive strides in special effects, gore effects. This is almost like a training video to show your kids if they want to watch a horror movie for the first time. Compared to what's now available. I mean, this is well, I say this because Brain Dead is the love letter to Sam Raimi and the Evil Dead. There's comparisons between Lionel, the main character in this, and Ash are very par and par together. It's not ripping it off. It's not being disrespectful. It is a pure tip of the hat nod, and it is a love letter to the Evil Dead. So both characters, wouldn't say, well, look, Lionel's extraordinarily nerdy in this one, and you see this good, wholesome guy go through absolute shit at the end, and doesn't make him mean. He doesn't lose his humanity. However, it makes him a hard ass. But he still has his humanity intact. Same as Ash. He's still got his he's still comedic. He's still got his kind of. He wasn't goofy in any sense. He wasn't really a nerd. He was a good-looking guy. He had a girlfriend in Evil Dead. When they went to the cabin and all shit kind of kicked off. But you see him progress from all these bad scenarios. Made him battle-hardened. Is the word I would describe Ash. But he's not an asshole. So it's that kind of character development you see in this film that I really liked, and Doug seeing the progression, how it went, because most people in a scenario like that, who knows, man, human behaviour is quite a fucking thing, isn't it? People completely flip out and turn nasty, others crumble in the corner and everyone dies. It depends, on the thing. So yeah, it's a definite contrast, and the gore, the level of blood. So when they said we use 400 litres of blood in this film at the end of the movie, and then they talk about, the Evil Dead, when they did the remake, and you've got the woman running in the forest, and it literally is raining blood. Hello, Slayer. And she's just almost turning black because the crimson of the blood is so dark and realistic, as whether everyone getting covered in blood in this one, it looks like pink mousse. Like it's really bubbly. There's a texture to it. They used a shitload of green pus and stuff like they did in Evil Dead for that ratings reason. So then that way they wouldn't get completely pounded and wouldn't be able to release this film. So so when people say, oh, it's the goriest film ever made, the horror fans go, nah, sorry, it's not. We still love it. It was gory for the time, but not the goriest thing we've ever seen. We love it for what it is, and it's a fantastic horror film and great comedy horror film. So, yeah, I'll be interested in the show notes if you'd like to say the first time you watched this movie, and what were your kind of impressions of it, and were you at a party like with a bunch of guys, like, you know, in a party situation, and you put it on and you weren't supposed to watch it, or you managed to, or you just went out and hide it, and what your experiences were with it. Cool. So the cast for this New Zealand cast, and so we've got Lionel Cosgrove, who's played by Timothy Bellamy, so Balimie. In researching for this, the cool thing that I discovered that he was actually the voice narrator for Border Force in New Zealand, which is a TV show here. It talks about customs, and it's like a reality TV, and you see people kind of getting pinged, trying to bring people things into New Zealand. There's also one in Australia as well. And when I found this out, I was like, oh man, I want to write to New Zealand Border Patrol and just say, look, Timothy, can at one stage, just for us brain dead fans, can you say, you know, and such tried to bring this prohibited item into New Zealand, and game over. Like, that would be the best. I'd be geeking out for sure if I heard that. Vera Cosgrove plays his overbearing mum, played by Vera Moody. Bit of a TV legend in New Zealand. She was Labelia. I do apologise. That's a character in Lord of the Rings. I probably said that wrong. Massive apology in advance for Lord of the Rings fans if I got that wrong. And she's done other stints in New Zealand films as well, and she's passed away. So Paquita Sanchez is played by Deanna Padalver, so it's Penalver. She's done a lot of Spanish movies and movie and TV shows since Brain Dead, and she's currently got one called Nanny's Night, in 2000. Not Manny's Night, not the kid from Modern Family. It's a horror film about him getting sick during the night. You know, it's Manny's Night. So Nanny's Night is 2021, and I'm pretty keen to check this out. So I've written in the notes to go and look for it. So I want to see how or what her character is in this, and to see that she's still in the game and stuff. Paquita's grandmother, God bless her, is not with us. So Davina Whitehouse. Funny note, well, not funny note, a little bit of a factoid. Paquita is the name of Diana's actual grandmother in real life. So I thought that was pretty cool that they named her grandma after that, and bit of a respect thing that Peter and Fran put in for her. Davina Whitehouse, she's done a lot of New Zealand TV shows, but in Australia she's starred in Prisoner, which is a prison show, almost a little bit more darker than Orange is the New Black for US viewers, but still had that comedy in it, like, you know, still had a drama and a bit of comedy in there thrown in as well. So recently we had a show called Wentworth. That was the modern adaptation of Prisoner. Prisoner was the late 70s, early 80s, and I remember watching it as a kid at my grandma's house when I used to stay there when my parents worked. And so yeah, that was a pretty good show. Uncle Les, or as I call creepy New Zealand Donald Trump, played by Ian Watkin. He was in Charlotte's Web, and he's done some other New Zealand TV shows. You got Nurse McTavish, played by Brenda Kendall. She's done a absolute lot of New Zealand TV shows and movies. She was also in Prisoner, and she was also in The Sullivans. Father, now it's funny when I first read this, and it's my dyslexia kicked in. I swear to God, I thought it said MacGruber for a minute, and I thought, "Fuck, that's so fitting," especially when he does the kung fu fight scene in the graveyard. I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty much a MacGruber thing to do," but like it didn't. It was Magruder, so I was a little bit bummed out. Played by student Stuart Davini. He was in The Frighteners. He was in Power Rangers as well. I'm not sure of the characters, but he was also in New Zealand TV as well. So that was pretty cool to learn that. The punk rocker guy in the graveyard that turns eventually into a zombie is played by Jeff Brophy, and he is in District 9. He's in Hobbit 2 Towers. He's in King Kong. He's in Xena Warrior Princess. He's in Heavenly Creatures. A lot of Peter Jackson stuff. So he gets a lot of gigs from Peter Jackson. So it's good that there's that friendship there. And he stars in a lot of his films. And you can, like I said, and I've said this before in other episodes, it reflects on the film when the actors and the directors and they know each other, and they all help each other out by working on these projects together, because it reflects in the performance. It's good, and yeah, I really like seeing that. The Undertaker is played by Peter Van Jones. He starred in Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles, which is the other two Peter Jackson films before this one. And the assistant for the Undertaker was the cameo of Peter Jackson. Did the cameo for that. So he's pulled a bit of a Stephen King and showed up in his own film. So that's the cast. So the flow of this movie. Like I said, pretty much it starts with the cranking of the comedy. And the comedy starts pretty much on the beach of Sumatra, with this guy being over dramatic with trying to bring this caged thing that you don't see in the cage. But all the the locals of the guy that's with him, the guide, is freaking out. It's very Indiana Jones-ish. Like there's a bit of a nod. And then you've got the actual other the people running down after him, like, because he's got this creature, and the guide's going, it's evil, you can't leave here, blah blah blah. And the white guy's like, oh, what would you know, the typical white thing. And they get him into the Jeep, and then it's discovered that he's got the bite, so they try and cut each part of him off that's bitten. And it's, like I said, the comedy's there when they start hacking this guy up eventually, because he's been bitten all over the place. And that's kind of the nod there, and a bit of the humor. And so, and there's another little Indiana Jones nod where you see the thing that I liked about it as well. And this is the movie that got me interested in claymation and stop motion. When I was a kid, I watched the 60s, or I think it was the 50s, late 50s, early 60s movie like Hercules or something. It was like like The Odyssey. And there was a Cyclops in it, and I can't remember the name of the film, but I remember watching it as a kid, and I was enthralled. Scared at the same time, but enthralled by it, because watching, these monsters, and then the skeletons came out of the ground, and they had shields and swords, and they were ready to fight, and, and that's where my first introduction to stop motion came from. But because I was little, I didn't understand what it was. Is whether, as a 14-year-old, I was like, oh, hang on a minute, what's this style that they're doing here? This is pretty cool. So that you could see it was a model of the plane, and then you could see, the map, and it was like that Indiana Jones where you see the map thing and it follows where the plane's going in the background, and they kind of did a nod to that. And then it goes to Wellington, and you see the train, and you see the street and the cars. And 1 minute it's real, and the next minute it's then a model. You can see that it's a train model, and it's a model of the city, and then it goes back to being real again. So and I really dug that. But it kind of got me interested. Hey, what's this? What's that style again? And someone said, it's claymation or it's stop motion, and I kind of went, I've got to see what this stop motion's about. And so that's kind of where my interest in that came from. And then a guy in high school that was a bit older than me, I was a part of the art club, and he was doing a stop motion film for his Year 12 project. I don't remember the guy's name. He was way... This would have been at least 95 or 96. No, it would have been 94 or 95, because a bit after this, he was Year 12, 95, because he went on, he got an A or something, man. No shit. Like, this thing was amazing, and it went on for weeks, and I just would walk in and look, and he would move a figurine or he would move something, and then just seeing the whole process steadily over this long period of time. And then he presented it during this art exhibition thing at the school, and he put it in the amphitheater. We all watched it. It was pretty great. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And it got me into film production. I look back at it now and I go, I should have just left high school and gone into that. It was definitely an interest of mine. But I just kind of had always been, get a job, do this, do, and so I missed out on a lot of opportunities I think that I could have just done and didn't. Anyway, that's the way it goes. All good. So, after seeing the style happening in the film, you then get introduced to Lionel, you get introduced to Paquita, and it's an interesting one where the style of this romance that blossoms between these two characters is a very 50s movie, right? And if you come into this, it's set in Wellington in 1957. That's not why I'm saying this film is designed by a 50s movie. What I mean by that is, it's in color, but if you look at how the music, the not so much the lighting, but just like the music and how the actors are talking and how they behave, it's that 50s stiffness that they had. There was, as opposed to movies now where all the actors are kind of moving freely. The 50s kind of like, oh, hello, it still had that, a little bit of that touch to this film, and they made it like that. It's not like, and it was done on purpose. It's definitely, like I said, a nod to 50s movies for sure. And so seeing Lionel and Paquita start this kind of relationship out of nothing, literally 0 to 100, and what I mean by that is, there's another guy that Paquita's absolutely smitten with, and he's the grocery guy, and he's a bit of a beefcake, and he's got the general store, and he does the deliveries, and that's who she's interested in, and he flirts with her, and she's like, what? And the grandma notices this and says, okay, let's do the cards and see if he's the guy for you, and she does the cards, and just at that point, she learns of this symbol that this guy will make, and that's the guy that she's destined to be with. And Lionel comes in at that point, and she's just looking at him with stink eye for 2 minutes, get the fuck out of my shop. That's pretty much the whole vibe, the whole entire time that he's there, because he's super nervous, because he's a massive klutz. He's tipping things over, things are breaking. She's just getting more and more pissed off, and then he knocks something over on the bench that just happens to make this symbol shape. And immediately, like I said, Paquita goes from 0 to 100. She's just oh my God, it's him. And almost practically gets on her knees. She just completely flips out and totally smitten by him. This freaks him out. He runs out the shop backwards onto the road, almost gets cleaned up by a tram. I had a flashback to bloody Final Destination. I'd forgot this scene. And there's a lot of, when I went to rewatch this movie, there's a lot of horror movie amnesia, I call it, where I've forgotten a film, or it's like what do they call it? A false memory, of a film where I'm I'm sure this happened, or this line was said, it's a false memory. And he does that, and the tram comes, and I literally just had like Final Destination PTSD. I was just like, bro, like, and he falls into the tram and gets picked up and whisks away in this kind of comedic, physical comedy way. He goes back to the house, and you get met with the overbearing mum, and she's like, this health is filthy, like, and she's full on. So we get to know that the mum's a douchebag, and so we kind of learn. And that went very overbearing, condescending, just a piece of shit. And so in the meantime, Pagrita rocks back up and goes to the house, like, to see where he lives. Like, she's essentially stalking him. And she's like, oh, do you live here? Blah, blah, blah. One thing, she learns that they're going to the zoo. I've never been to the zoo. I want to go to the zoo. So she invites herself to go to the zoo with him, like, on this date. Like, she's hitting him hard, like, with the you're taking me out on a date, this kind of stuff, which is unusual for the 50s. Like, anyway, they go to the zoo, and this is where the mum is attending because she's a part of the old biddy every fucking committee, that she's on, and she's a part of this committee that's doing something at the zoo, and she's there. And so one thing leads to another. Their romantic date is going well because they've walked off from mum, and she's done her while she's doing her ceremonial stuff. In the meantime, they see the Sumatran rat monkey, and it's quite aggressive and kills another monkey quite grotesquely, freaks the whole audience out. And then the Lionel's mum slips, goes too close to the cage, and it bites his mum, and so she then promptly kills it. And so the gross, over the top body horror in that one is the bite that she's getting from this rat, but then when she kills it and her heel goes through its head and the eyes pop out and the pus and the blood all starts oozing everywhere, 14-year-old me and the guys lost our fucking mind. Like, at this point, we were just like, oh my God, that's gross. We love it. Like, and that meme where there's a whole packed bar and everyone's watching something on the big screen, and then something happens and the whole bar just like starts throwing beers everywhere. That's pretty much us. Like, 14-year-old boys, just the Coke and popcorn everywhere, going, oh my God, that's amazing. And little did we know how this movie unfolds, and we just, systematically had our mind blown, like, numerous times throughout the whole entire this film as it unfolds. And so that kind of grotesque scene there, and we were loving it. Anyway, she goes back and she starts taking a turn for the worst, and this is where more kind of gore happens. The gory scene will kick in, and this kind of stuff, and takes a turn, goes back home. Lionel's there looking after her. The nurse comes as well, and this is where we meet Nurse McTavish. She treats her wound and that kind of stuff, and bed rest and all that. She's doing that, and she's really, like, she's losing color. The pus boils are starting to form. Like, she's like, the body horror is kicking up a notch in this film at this point. And she starts to turn again, like and then she realizes these committee people have come over to the house for some morning tea or something. And so there's a massive, like, come and get me cleaned up. So she's standing up. She's barely functioning. The zombie-ness is kicking in. And bits of her skin are falling off. And, like I said, the body horror in this is amazing. And it just ramps from this, And so as 14-year-old guys, we're pissing ourselves laughing. We just thought this was hilarious. And she comes down. And it's while she's eating, she's, like, turning it, like, so she's snatching food off other people. Like, she's just being really uncharacteristic from that straight-laced person that she is. And then the grossest scenes, like, I've got multiple issues with custard already at this point. And then what about the pudding? Like, and the custard comes out, and I went, oh my God, I'm going to have fucking hell everywhere. That's what I remember as a kid. I was just like, nah, I was grossed out by the custard. I had a very bad experience in the early high school. that involved a kid with with a custard tart, and I just can't get over custard ever since. It just makes me sick. Like I can't handle it. Like it's just Anyway, now that everyone knows that, I'm sure I'm going to get fucking heaps of custard related things, and come at me. Like anyway, so the she's picking something at one stage and it squirts into the custard, and then he picks up and he eats it, and I just remember everyone in that room just on the couch, what the fuck? Oh my god, it grossed us out so hard. Like at the same time as that meme, it's gross, we love it. Oh my god. So this guy was eating it, and it was anyway, and they left eventually. They leave, and so Mum's progression gets worse, and so pretty much after this, she takes a real bad turn for the worse. She ends up like eating the dog, like Pregita's dog. Now the thing is, as you know from other episodes, I've got a massive thing about like kids and animals in horror in harm's way, can't handle it, whatever. I actually handled this one because one, you didn't hear the dog, right? Two, when you actually see the dog and what's left of it, you don't even know that it was. Like it was just a tail. And and that's what I mean. The comedy brilliance of this is the horror of that she's just eaten a fucking dog. Now, if you're a dog person, this is pretty like holy shit. But because it was like the hanky out of the sleeve shit, so it was like a German Shepherd's tail getting pulled out of a mouth. Like, and it's the comedy that is the long like this. Fuck, we were hell. I still laugh at it. Like, and I, me, I can't handle dogs in horror, and I thought it was hilarious. Like, and so that just shows when it's done right. Like when you do a comedy horror, this is it. This is the blueprint, and you're laughing at the horror of it. And man, I was, but there was nothing left of the dog. Like it was, and the guy's response, like it was just hilarious, and. So she goes full zomb at this point, and she comes stumbling down the stairs. Lionel finds out, Nurse McTavish calls it and says, "Nah, she's dead," kind of thing. There's a moment, and then Nurse McTavish gets fucking taken out. Like, and it's not when you're ready for it. Like, it's a pretty deep. It's not a jump scare, I won't say that, but you kind of go, "Whoa, shit!" Like, because when it happens, like you're like, "Fucking hell," and it just makes you like. And there's, like I said, plenty of that in this film. So Nurse McTavish gets taken out. So then Lionel's like, "Shit, I got two zombies on my hands here, and my Pregita's here. She can't find out about this." So they promptly get shoved into the basement. And he's like, mate, he's just getting Pregita out of the house. Like, he's totally panicking. And so Pregita's a bit put off by this, going, what the fuck? Like, do you want me to help or not? And he just, like, kicks her out. So she's a bit put off by it and leaves. And so he's now stressing, like, shit, what do I do with these two bodies in my basement? So he goes into the vet's. It's a funny choice why he chose the vet. I don't get that bit, but that's me. That's my problem. I don't get why that happened, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, so he goes to the vet. He gets some tranks because they don't have sedatives, and there's this over the top kind of suggesting maybe he was a Nazi Zionist. I don't know, but it was quite funny. And he goes, "But I don't have tranquilizers." Like, and so he gets these tranquilizers. He's got this massive vat of like tranquilizers, and he goes there with this big fuck off needle and like squirts it into the nurse and then into his mum, who attacks him, and he's got her on the ground. And I had a bloody COVID test fucking PTSD flashback when this happened, because he shoves the needle right into her nose. I'm like, oh shit, that's a bit too close to the COVID test for my liking. I'm having a flashback, shit. So anyway, squirts it up there and knocks them out. So both the zombies are knocked out. And anyway, so the problem is he doesn't obviously do enough. It knocks Nurse McTavish out, but it doesn't knock Mama out, and she comes back, and Lionel goes back to Bagrida's shop because he's kind of spooked by this and wants to see how the tarot cards work and what does he mean by he's surrounded by evil. And so they do a card reading, and in the meantime, Zombie Mum manages to break out and get out through the house, walks through Wellington, like doesn't mang on anybody. Like, this is what I don't get. And like you know, I don't know. It didn't piss me off. I just didn't get it. I was like, you know, why is she not manging everyone like that? She's bumping into people, you know, and everyone's like, oh my God, who's that? Like, you know, and then she runs in front of the tram, and the tram cleans her up and just puts her through the front door of the shop, you know, and everyone's like, who the hell's that? And he goes, oh, it's my mum, you know, and then she gets up and attacks, but he's got another needle of tranquilizer and squirts her, and that's kind of the end of Mum, pretty much, for that moment. And then you got the funeral scene is the next bit, and so we meet the priest, Father Magruder. I want to say Magruder. It really suits. And then we get introduced to New Zealand Donald Trump, which is Uncle Les, and he's gross. The other interesting thing is seeing how ventilator inhalers looked back in the day. It was like this glass thing that he just goes, like, you know, and it looks bizarre, but that was pretty cool. And he's like cracking onto Brigida like immediately as soon as he rocks up. And like I said, just massive sleaze bag, and he's there for the cash, like he's there for the money, for the house or the whatever. He wants to get his mitts on it, or some mitts, or some part of the cash at least. And it's Vera's brother, I reckon. That's how this fits. And he's kind of got a revelation midway through this film, like what the actual real deal was with Lionel's parents, like, and the dad and all this kind of stuff. So that kind of gets revealed, but I won't say anything about that. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It gets revealed at some stage. And so anyway, we meet up with him. They're at the funeral. Some pretty funny shit goes down at the funeral, which I won't get into, and some more body horror kind of stuff. And then that night is when it kind of kicks into gear, because you've got that night where the mum is now buried. We get Peter Jackson's cameo with the Undertaker, and they're pumping like green pus, and there is green pus just flying fucking everywhere in this scene, and it's just the most grossest thing ever. And us young guys were pissing ourselves laughing. We couldn't believe it, and it's what we were watching. It was amazing. It was just really, 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 really gross, like, but good gross. You know what I mean? And quite funny. He was overacting with the goggles, and it just reminded me of the whole Frankenstein, you know, Bride of Frankenstein scene. I really dug it. I knew what he was kind of nodding at, and done in a really comedic way as well. And so, anyway, that night, yeah, he's in the graveyard. He wants to dig his mum up, right? And he wants to make sure mum is definitely dead. Like, he's massively peeking out over this. Bad timing, because the rockers kind of rock up in the graveyard. They see him digging up a grave, and they crack the shits at him and say, you know, you're a weirdo, and they start beating him up. And Void, this is where we meet Void, and he goes, right, you know, you're digging this body up. So as the ultimate desecration, decides to start pissing on his grave, and he goes, that's my mum's grave you're pissing on, and this massive hand just rips out of the ground, you know, like, grabs Void and pulls him like down. I think Vera grabs him by the balls and like pulls him down, like, and he falls into things, and you just see his chest getting ripped to shit, and the blood just spraying out the sides, and he's like, ugh. At this point, I was like, 14-year-old Joe was like, fuck, if I need to bury this movie. Like, I was like, holy shit, I'm completely in love with this movie. Like, this is insane, because, you know, I've seen Return of the Living Dead, right? But there's no blood spray like that in Return of the Living Dead. I was like, holy shit! Like this is, and you know when you get the real gore and the real blood spraying everywhere, and it's a zombie movie. I was invested. This was like, yeah, this has got me, and I need to see how this movie goes. So very excited. 14-year-old zombie Joe at this point. And so he gets thrown. You see all the skin ripped off, and his rib cage is sticking out. And you're like, holy shit! And then Vera's just out of the grave, like she's like full zombie monster mum, and gets stuck into one of the other rockers in the group as well, and he gets bitten and torn apart. At the same time, Void changes, like he crosses over the other rockabilly guy, the other rocker kind of gets attacked, and he changes as well. So now you got the three things. While all this is going on, we got Father Magruder comes in, and this is where we get the classic line of "I kick ass for the Lord." Like, and okay, us Forturian boys lost our fucking mind when we saw this, because you have a priest like doing a kung fu scene where he is just smacking, like over the top, smacking the shit out of these zombies. You know, he's doing a leg kick. He's like, like kicking in the face, and it was just so over the top, so comedic. But like this kung fu, like this whole sequence just kicks off, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is fucking amazing. Like, and it like, you know, heads it, and he's like, and then he kicks like the zombies so hard that their like limbs are falling off as well, and I was fucking howling. Like when I rewatched this, I was still laughing at all the bits that I remembered, and still it still held up, and it still gave me, you know, it filled me with joy pretty much. Like it was so much fun, and it just cracked me up. So anyway, he's like smacking the zombies around. It's just hilarious and over the top. It was beautiful, and so he gets bitten though, unfortunately, and he turns as well. You've got poor Lionel gathering as best as he can everybody together and ties them all to the table. So he's got zombie Void, he's got zombie mum, he's got zombie nurse McTavish, and he's got zombie Father Gruder tied to the table, and he's feeding them, like, and he's not feeding the blood or guts or anything. He's feeding them a normal meal, like, and this is that reflection, like I said before, with this guy, how he cares. Like, he's still, even though this is an absolute horrific shitstorm that is happening, his humanity is still there. Like, he's still seeing them for people, even though they're zombies, you know, and he's still seeing their human side, and he just wants to look after everybody. And so I thought that was really cool, and that's why you really like Lionel, and you're rooting for him the whole entire time. And so he's tied everyone together. They're trying to eat, and it's really fun. It's this massive sequence where he's jumping between each person who's trying to eat. You know, food's coming out of their throats because they're not eating a lot. You know, just kind of crazy shit. And then as soon as he leaves the room, because Uncle Les rocks up, the priest, Father McTavish, and Nurse McTavish and Father Gruder look at each other and go, yeah, let's, yeah. And they end up having sex on the table. And they progressively have a zombie baby. What can I say? Like, that's like I said, it cranks a fucking notch. Like, it goes up that extra level. It goes that extra level because they're rooting on the table. Like, and Les is like hearing this going, oh, you're playing one of those saucy adult movies. You know, it's just a total gross dude. Manages to kick him out, and anyway, so he's thinking, oh yeah, Lionel's a total freak kind of thing, and he gets back, and they get everybody back into the basement, and this is when, like I said, you get discovered with the zombie baby. Like, the whole gestation period is sped up at this point, and anyway, so little baby zombie, I forgot the name that he gives it. It's hilarious. The physical comedy that's hilarious about this, right, is during the day he takes the baby out in a pram, and it's that 50s pram, but it's got barbed wire inside the thing so the baby can't get out or it can't eat people. And so, like, it's a full zombie baby. Anyway, the funny thing is he loses control, of course, tips over, physical comedy, the baby falls out of the pram, right? And it's done any other way, you'd be stressed out because it's a baby falling out of a pram. Because it's done like this, it's fucking hilarious, right? And then the baby gets up and runs, and the physical comedy of this is the fact that it was once a tiny baby in this pram. Now it's a fucking full-grown man, like in a baby suit, running. You can tell the slight difference is done deliberately. It's fucking hilarious. And he's just and then he grabs the baby, and then it's gone from big baby to shrunk baby, and he's like pounding it into a pole, like it's just fucking so over the top, and it's just genius, and you're just cracking like it still cracks me up. So there was that whole scene. He's like, oh, like over hyperactive or something. He says to the other mums, look at him, going, what the fuck is he doing? Like, and then brings it back and. This is where Les invites everyone over for this. Oh, no, that's right. So Les finds out about the zombies because he brings the thing. He doesn't lock them up properly, and he's going, okay, Lionel, you got to come straight with what's going on, blah blah blah, and he finds out about the zombies in the basement. And the bodies in the basement. He thinks he's killed people. He thinks he's a serial killer, right? So he goes, I'm going to the cops, blah, blah, blah. Starts ringing. Then he stops and he goes, I can make this go away if you give me the money in the house right now. So his ulterior motive was to blackmail him into this scenario, the house is mine kind of thing. And Lionel, I can't remember whether he says yes, but he gives up. Like he kind of I think he agrees, like, and he goes, okay, whatever. He's just so like depressed, and he's given up about what's happening, and that the party starts. Like there's a and I think at this point Brigitte and him have broken up. Like there's that scene, he's just pushing her away deliberately so she doesn't get involved, and so she ends up, like, I wouldn't say hooking up with the grocery guy, but she goes and goes out on a date with him, and so is just proceedingly bored shitless because this guy's like, and I played rugby and I kicked it, and he's just talking about this rugby game the whole time, and Brigitte's just bored shitless, and then she sees him and like kind of gets sad that he's missing her, and he's missing, she's missing him, he's missing her, that kind of stuff. And in the meantime, Uncle Les decides to invite all these people over. Now, I don't know if it's the neighbours that come over, or he's just a whole bunch of like Uncle Les's like friends or whatever. They all come over and they're bringing their long necks over and food, and it's a 50s party, so they all start kicking off. Like in the meantime, fucking Uncle Les tries to and Brigitte joins the party, and in the meantime he's like fully had a crack at, actually tried to like sexually assault her in the kitchen, pretty much, being the piece of shit that he is. What eventuates is the zombies get out, and this is where shit hits the fan, right? Or should I say lawnmower blades, because this is, and it starts so quick. The door crashes down. The first guy gets stuck in under the door, and he promptly gets his rib cage removed, like while he's alive, just ripped clean out like this, and everyone's like, ah, and there's fucking chaos because all the zombies jump out of the basement. They're running free into the big hall area where the stairs are. People are trying to run and they can't. Everyone's biting everyone else. It is fucking carnage. And I'm just watching this smashing popcorn as a 14-year-old going, fucking, this is just, oh my God, this movie is just amazing, And I was like thanking the guy's brother for not returning this movie when he was supposed to. Like, I would have never seen it. Like, I would have known when I would have saw it, but I saw it at the right time when I did. So things happen for a reason, man. And so I was that whole entire end scene is amazing. I'm going to go into some bits, but I won't reveal everything that kind of happens. But the level of gore and things that happen to certain people in this movie is phenomenal. Void gets somehow cut in half, like because he goes through a door and the door traps him and it rips him. The funny thing is, when I saw the movie, the Indonesian movie, The Raid, and there's a scene where an Indonesian bad guy jumps through the door that's been broken in half and he gets kicked back through it and he lands face first into the shard sticking up out of the door, I thought of Brain Dead. Like, I was like, wow, holy crap. Like, that's... I'm not saying they copied that scene in The Raid, but yeah, holy shit. It's amazing that's where I went to. I was like, wow, that's Brain Dead. That's reminded me of Brain Dead. In Brain Dead, Void is so hell-bent in getting Lionel that he tears himself in half and goes into the bathroom. Then Lionel grabs him and throws him into the toilet and flushes, and his insides flush into the bowl. Like, you can, like, he's reacting to it, right? And he's trying to get out and he can't because he's trapped in the thing, and then his insides come alive and go after Lionel. So literally at one stage he's getting pursued by like a bladder and an ass, like, you know, and some intestines from the, you know, his lower half is chasing Lionel around, and eventually trap him and also have him dangling from the stairs, hovering over the zombies. You know, it's amazing. And it's just hilarious how this thing progresses on. People get punched in the face, like, and their fist goes through their head. You know, you've got one zombie lady gets put back onto a light globe and her whole face glows. Holy moly. The one that cracked me up, and I still piss myself when I see this, and it's just hilarious. The guy gets pulled out of the kitchen, rescued by some girls, and they pull him back out. And his legs are still, the bones are still attached, but he's got his shoes are still there, but he's just got these bony little legs. His fucking, all the meat has been ripped off, like everything's gone. And he's like, like, you know, his little legs are doing like, oh, fuck it, I just lost my mind. When I first saw that, I absolutely wet my pants. We were rolling at this point. It got to that we had to stop and rewind and go back to that scene because we were laughing so hard at because we'd never seen anything like this before. And like I said, the comment, like, if you put it in any context like scary music or lighting or whatever, and it wasn't done in a funny way, you'd be chucking in your lap, like, for sure. That's like Saving Private Ryan shit, like, almost. But because it was delivered so well, and the music and the comedic kind of reaction to this guy, you were wetting yourself. And then there's another guy that literally loses the top part of his head and it just skids along the tiles. And because he's got glasses, this part of his head's and it's just sliding along the floor. And people are kicking it like all over the place while they're trying to run and get away from whatever's going down. So, and and then Lionel rocks up with the chainsaw and is like, you know, party, the chainsaw with the lawnmower, and goes, party's over. Like, you know, it was that Ash moment, you know, and I was like, fucking yeah, there it is. Like, and he just charges into this group with the blade spinning and just everyone. And you're like, yeah. And then the comedy when he turns around and he's only like fucking knocked 4 people over, and the zombie group's still there, and they just turn around and look at him, and he's like, oh shit, like, you know, it's only like hit 4 people. And then he's running and he's not moving, and the zombies are getting closer to him, and it's that comedic kind of Looney Tunes, like, you know, and it's, oh man, we were just pissing ourselves laughing. So the physical comedy, the verbal comedy was really matched at this point, but the gore was ramping like through the ceiling. It was, and like I said, this scene here and everything after this zombie stuff is the perfect 14-year-old boy thing to watch, because this is how we think. This is what gets us going like this. So anyway, after all this, we kind of follow, and you're rooting for Bagrita the whole entire time, who's trying to survive, and everyone around her is getting picked off, like systematically picked off, to the point where it's just Lionel and her left, right? In the meantime, the mama zombie is transforming into something completely different, and boy oh boy do we have a massive boss fight at the end of this thing. And that's exactly, I remember my mate just going, it's a fucking boss fight, like, and she's coming up the stairs, and she is a huge ass, literally huge ass mama, and massive boss fight, and she's like, I want you to come back into me, Lyle, and like she just opens herself up, and he's like getting pulled in. I'm like, holy shit, this is nuts. And yeah, massive showdown. Anyway, so I'll leave it there. That's pretty much where I'm going to go with that. Like I said, this is the best phenomenal comedy horror to ever exist. It always will be. I don't think it will be topped. I think horror fan directors will never top this. They don't want to. This will always stay the best. And so that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'd leave it where it is. It's a fucking gem. It's a gem. I love it. Like, it's fantastic. What I've done as a favour for you is I've kind of searched around. It is free to watch on YouTube. I've connected the link to this. If you follow the link, you will get onto it. In 2 stages for about a minute, the audio drops out. You can't hear anything. You don't miss anything major either. It's not a plot ender, like you still know what's going on. And so, yeah, if you have not seen this movie, I haven't spoiled it. I've just run through it. So you're good to go. There's still some gems in there still. Check it out. If you want to watch something really funny, over the top, and you're not even a horror fan, still watch this. This is probably the best horror comedy you're going to get. Like, and so heavily recommended for me. For me, easily, this is a 9 out of 10. Easy. Like, easy. Would I want this remade? Fuck no. Leave it where it is. Do not remake this. I'll be very pissed off. I don't usually turn into a keyboard warrior, but I will be a massive one if someone goes, oh, let's redo Brain Dead. Like, I'll be fucking so pissed off. So leave it where it is. It's safe to say I think it's going to be left alone. But anyway, you never know nowadays. Cool. So there you go. 9 out of 10. Definitely recommend. First time horror movie? No. Know who you're showing it to. If they're really into, over the top, funny, and can handle a bit of gore, yeah, why not? Test the water, see how you go. But yeah, no, this is like, oh, I want to watch a horror movie. I've never seen a horror movie. Yeah, no worries. Let's watch Brain Dead. No worries. Unless you want to watch the fucking world burn, like that's the person you are, then yeah, have at it. But yeah, definitely not a first horror movie recommend, for sure. So cool. I'll move into the horrible mentions now. In the month that between episodes, I've managed to check out Scream in that time, which was really, really good. Studio 666 is just starting to come out now, so I haven't seen it yet. I'll go and definitely check that one out for sure. It looks great, man. And some new posters now for the Evil Dead Rise, so that's really got my attention. I hope. I've got some good feelings about it. I'll see how I go. I'll just go in without seeing any trailers. I'll go in open-minded, man. That's probably the best thing to do. I won't be checking trailers out or anything like that. I'll just go in completely blind and neutral, and I'll see where it goes. I saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'm a bit on the fence with it. There's some bits that I liked. There's some bits that didn't make sense. But all in all, I didn't hate it. So it's, check it out. Turn your brain off for an hour and a bit make some popcorn, drink some beers, watching people getting cut up with a chainsaw. I mean, that's really what it is. Like, let's not. It's not. But okay. The thing, I'm not going to go on a rant here, but the issues that I had with this is that they're now bringing stuff in society and they're pissing it into films, and I'm just like, no. So this one here tried to tackle some stuff, and yes, it needs to be acknowledged. Does it need to be acknowledged in a horror film? No, it doesn't. Right? We are already aware that it is happening in society. If you start jamming it into genres, it's going to piss everyone off, and you won't get anyone on side for any group that you're representing, because you just oversaturating is just going to annoy the fuck out of everyone. That's all I'm going to say. So there's some parts in this TCM movie that I really enjoyed. And there's others that I didn't. I just thought, for fuck's sake, but at the end of the day, like I said, I didn't hate it. I took it for what it was, and we'll see how we go with it. Clearly, they've left it open, so there's going to be a sequel. They're kind of aiming for that. I think they're gauging the audience reactions on this on Netflix. We'll see how I go. Check this space, mate, because I tell you, it's fucking divided the internet, big time, on this one. So Scream 5. I've been reading kind of both parties' arguments, and some good points have been raised on each side. I took it for what it was. I'm like, okay, this is how they're going with this. Do I hate it? No. Do I absolutely love it? No. But it's a part of the trilogy, and we'll see how we go. It's the same as the new Halloween. A lot of people fucking flat out hate Halloween Kills. Other groups go, okay, this is a double adapter film. This is building to something else. So there's going to be no real beginning and no real end. It's a filler, and with the filler second movie in a trilogy, it kind of is a bit weaker, because it's got to build some more stuff and then flow into number 3. And I think that's where Halloween Kills was going with that. So, and I think some people have missed the point of what it is. So that's my take on that one. So, look, Halloween Kills, TCM, Screen 5, check them out. They're all right. I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife. I really like that too. They tied that in so well. Whoops, fucking. Yeah, there goes fucking the Scream. He's died. I think I was just talking about Scream 5 so much he fucking fainted. My Scream 5 prop just collapsed. So anyway, look, I just took them for what they were, and just do the same thing. That's probably my advice. Ghostbusters Afterlife, I really dug it. I really enjoyed it. I like the tie-in. I like how they did the thing. And yeah, okay, they made a comment in there that kind of pissed some people off because they weren't referring to the female Ghostbusters one. And I didn't mind that one. I found that entertaining. It did its thing, whatever. Some people care about Ghostbusters a lot, and they're like, it's not a part of the canon. Okay, cool. I understand that argument. That's fine. And I'm not disrespecting that. That's fine. So I just kind of liked all of them as my kids. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, it exists. You can't say it doesn't exist. So when this one comment has said in Afterlife, it was like that really funny meme. They did the Thanos meme where he clicks and that movie disappears. I thought that was actually quite funny. It's done in good humor. So, yeah, I thought that was quite funny. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, these movies are entertaining us. It's not our life. You know what I mean? Don't get bogged down in it. There's heavy as shit going on right now. We can just all enjoy movies and just escape, So don't get bogged down and try and start hating on each other because someone likes something more than you, or it's like something that you don't agree with. Just cool. Everyone, each to their own. Everyone needs to start doing that a bit more. Anyway, so cool. That's that done. No worries, man. That's all the horrible mentions out the way. So yeah, until next time, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And yeah, you can email me at adelaidehorrorpodcast@gmail.com. You can also get in contact with me, probably quicker via Instagram. That way, I'm on the Twitter handle, the Nordic Nap on Twitter as well. That's kind of like my personal / podcast one, so you can follow me on that. And then yeah, the Facebook group as well. So that's all well and good. We live in some scary fucking times at the moment. So yeah, just take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and stay scary. And I will see you in the crypt.